I think it's safe to say that free speech is under attack like never before in 2024. When I first started in the movement in 2017, there's a clamour to crack down on anything that could be seen as extreme speech, even among our movement. I was very much against that, and when I started teaming up with Tommy in late 2017, early 2018, obviously the main thrust then was for freedom. We had the Day of Freedom rally in Parliament Square in Downing Street in May 2018. We had the UK Freedom March when Tommy was actually in prison in, when was that? I think June or July 2018. So freedom has always been a cornerstone of what I've believed our movement should be about. And I think history has shown that my analysis was right, that yes, there was a problem with Islamic extremism, but the far bigger problem is the deep state, the liberal elite, the globalists and the communists trying to silence anybody that disagrees with them. And that you could be a Jew, a Christian, a Muslim, it doesn't matter. If you say something that goes outside of their box, they're going to come down on you like a ton of bricks, as the families found out in Birmingham that were, again, quite rightly protesting against all sorts of nonsense being taught to their very, very young children. So freedom of speech to me is an absolute, and I am pretty much a freedom of speech absolutist. But what we've seen in the last weeks, even in the town I live in Northern Ireland, we've seen people put in prison for saying things on Facebook. One man was put in prison, he's on remand, he's been put in prison for reposting on Facebook a post that happened to say that Islam was evil. Now, as far as I know, even in Northern Ireland, it's not against the law to criticise a religion. But according to this judge, that was one of the reasons that he gave for imprisoning this man. And D-Sit's been in prison ever since. And we don't know what's going to happen. I think he's up in court on the 26th, 27th of September. But looking wider than that, there are people, scores of people up and down the country that have been put behind bars for things that were tweeted that before Starmer came to power would not have even been looked at. And again, there are people that were put in prison before Starmer came to power, which you've got to say were on very, very dubious grounds. And even people, again, that I fundamentally disagree with, like Sam Melia from Patriotic Alternative, completely disagree and despise his politics, but 100% stand up for his right to say things that I disagree with, and he can also disagree with me. So how have we got into this situation? Well, funnily enough, one of the main problems that we've got is social media. It's the opposite of what the government and the mainstream media and the deep state tell us, and the globalists and the communists. The problem is not that there's too much free speech on social media. There's nowhere near enough. And the parameters of what you can say on channels like this one that I'm going to be posting this to have got smaller and smaller and smaller as time's gone on. And what's happened is the legislation has actually caught up with the censorship that the censors and the whatever bots they use in these massive social media companies to silence people. So eventually the legislation has basically caught up and said, oh, well, if the social media companies can silence on this, we can silence on this. So social media is a massive problem. Mainstream media is a complete disaster. They lie and they lie and they lie. The truth they have not known. They're working for their father, the father of lies. Mainstream media, I take it all, and I mean all, with a massive pinch of salt and read between every line and scrutinise everything. That is an attack on freedom of speech. If mainstream media are not telling the truth and not backing the truth, there's a massive, massive problem. The police. Why are the police involved in policing tweets and Facebook posts and arresting people and putting them in prison for that? The judiciary. This is an absolute attack and assault on civil liberties. There are now in the UK scores, possibly hundreds, of political prisoners as a result of Keir Starmer's, I was going to say Stalinist, but it's more Trotskyist crackdown on freedom of speech and on what people think. It is absolutely despicable and disgusting. So what do we do? What do we do to address this? How do we fight back against this? Well, there's one thing we do. We do more. After the riot started, a lot of people went very, very quiet on social media. A lot of people, I'll be honest with you, have completely vanished off social media. There's some good people still there. Paul Thorpe's still there making films. Maya Tusi, Carl Benjamin, Lawrence, all the usual suspects are all still there with their head above the parapet. And obviously Tommy, it's very difficult to shut Tommy up. That's why they keep putting him in prison to shut him up. But there are some people whose knees have gone a little bit weak and they've just disappeared. The reality is, my policy was, as soon as that happened, do more. So instead of doing one video every 2 or 3 days, I was doing 2 videos a day. Again, that becomes quite burdensome. And sometimes we've got to take a little break because I've got to work, I've got to look after my family, I've got to do all the other stuff that a normal human being does in normal life. But do more. I've done, I think it was 50 more videos this month. So however many videos I normally do in a month, I've done 50 more already in August. So that's pretty much doubling the amount, more than doubling the amount that I actually normally do. The other thing is, when it comes to fighting for free speech, very, very simply, iron sharpens iron. When you see Tommy, or you see a Patriot, or you see what's happened in Northern Ireland, or you see people going behind bars, going behind the door for what they're saying and what they believe, that's the time to stand up. In fact, you should have stood up in 2017, or we all should have stood up when Tommy first stood up, but we didn't. But we're standing up now. And I think we've got to encourage each other to stand up more. And if everybody starts doing it, it's the I am Spartacus effect. If everybody starts doing it, we become too big to rig, as the Americans say about the election. And that's the same with voting as well, and we'll talk about that a bit later on. The reality is we all need to stand up and we all need to make our voices heard. The more they crack down, the more we need to speak. The other thing is, social media will close us down. At the minute, we've got X. X is like a little oasis in a barren ground of censorship. Censorship is just like the desert that sucks all the water up. It sucks all the goodness out of speech, and it sucks all the fun out of actually having debate and talking about stuff. We need to find ways of bypassing social media. And again, I've said this so many times. If you are not registered with my website, I've got nearly 30,000 people subscribing on YouTube. If you're watching this video and you're not subscribed to my website, go on, give me your email address. I'm not asking for anything else. All I want to do is build an emailing list so that when the worst thing happens and they do start closing our accounts down, I can still email you, because the last thing that they're going to close down is my websites. And I'll put the link in the description below. It's the UK Freedom Movement website. You can't find it on Google. Obviously, it's censored. So, yeah, let's build this network stronger and deeper. Again, like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, because while I've got it, we might as well use it. Follow me on Twitter, and I'll put my Twitter handle in the description below. And like I say, please give me your email address. I'm not even sending emails out yet, because I don't have time, but I will start sending a regular email out, and I'll try and have some content on that site that's not on other sites, because obviously it's my site and I can decide how far I want to push the boundaries of freedom of speech. So again, that's for the future. But for now, we've got to keep sharing these videos with each other. One of the things is I've noticed that very few people that subscribe to my site actually get to see the video. So I'm wondering, are notifications not going out to people? So if you're not getting notifications, just keep checking back on this site, because I'm going to be putting content out like this out on a regular basis. The other thing is, let's get fully behind Tommy, because his court case that's coming up in October is absolutely a free speech issue. And what I would like to see is a lot of people on the ground when that court case happens. Outside the court, we need a lot of people there, and a lot of people standing with him. And again, we need to make sure it's peaceful. We need to make sure it's legitimate. We need to make sure it's legal. But we do need to have boots on the ground. So that's very important as well. Well, guys, look, I'm not going to go on too long, because I worked out from looking at the stats on YouTube that most people watch about 4 minutes of my video. So I'm into 9 minutes now. So if anyone's still on, well done. And you've got the bonuses that nobody else has got. But this is the big battle. Free speech is the massive battle that we're facing. And we've got to win this one. If we don't have free speech, we do not have democracy. And these scum that are ruling us now, they hate us, and they hate what we say, and they hate free speech. And we've got to push back against that with everything we've got. And we can't afford to lose this one. Thank God for Elon. Thank God for Donald Trump. And I mean that. I hope Trump wins the election. I hope Elon holds his nerve. But guys, we've got to keep fighting. See you all soon.